please, no!
Okay, maybe I had too many magnets. Hey, thanks for watching. I'm Kevin, you're watching Paintucation, and we're back on this thing. It's a formerly terrible condition 74 Camaro, and as you can tell by the tail lights, it is no longer a 74. We've skinned it over completely with AMD sheet metal, and it occurred to me the other day, the only thing that is not AMD exterior sheet metal is this right here. This exterior pillar post. The A-pillar on either side. The only thing that's not AMD sheet metal, well, except for my fenders and the hood that we're using from the original car. Anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. If you haven't subscribed, please do. We're going to be doing stuff on this. I have been spending so much time on the front of this car. We got the drivetrain in. We got the transmission hooked up, the clutch, all that measurement done, all that stuff that makes my brain turn inside out. It's all done thanks to guys like Ron Ryan and Rodney Prouty. The foundation of this vehicle is super solid. Now I can focus back on, number one, reassembly. Get it to the point where now we can body work it. And I'm just so excited about that. Wiring harness is laid in. Dash is about to get dropped in. We're moving. We're cooking with gas on this vehicle. So let's talk about where it is right now. These cars look great. The swanky cars, the super sports and the RSs, and we had a spoiler on the back, right? This one doesn't have a spoiler. And it kind of looks a little plain Jane. And I'm going to invent my version of what I think this car should look like. My Z-Sled Camaro had the tall spoiler. It had this spoiler on the back. And it typically goes right there, aligns with the bottom of the deck lid, and looks all great. The corner pieces, which are still good from this car, sit right about there, right? Now, you 70 to 73 aficionados know that the corner pieces from the 71 to 73 cars go all the way down here and cover this up completely. I kind of dig the way this looks from the 74 up cars. But I don't want to do this spoiler. I want to use this spoiler. This is referred to as the low spoiler, and it's a one piece, and it sits typically right about there. It's a little ducktail, and it swoops up nicely. It's got a nice profile, and to me, this is nicer styling on this particular body configuration, and I want to show you what I mean. What I'm talking about is the design silhouette of this vehicle. So I'm going to get something set up and I'm going to show you a different perspective of this. Hang on. Hey, if you're watching this and you like Paintucation content, you want to up your skills, we're having a great sale right now. Black Friday through Cyber Monday, 50% off all Paintucation streaming products. The code is BLACK50. BLACK50. It's a simple code, but it's a great way to save some money and up your skills at the same time. Thanks for watching. Don't forget this sale. It doesn't happen very often. So I've just taped this up. Obviously, I haven't drilled the holes because I'm not going to use it. Spoiler alert. So this is how this works. It looks great. It's a quintessential, iconic Camaro spoiler. And it's a three-piece spoiler, and when you do a little work and file fit these, they look super good. I tuned the one in on Z-Sled nicely. In my opinion, this fits less aesthetically on this design car, and it's due to the back window. Yeah, granted, this looks great. I'm not disparaging this spoiler, but I'm going to show you why I want to use the lower spoiler. So let's look at it a different way. All right, so this is what I call the flat back glass. I had trouble saying it on the very first episode of this car. This is what changed from 1974 all the way up to 1981. They used a wraparound rear glass. Now, granted, you could see better out of it, but this is 71 through 73. This, or 74 actually. 74 was the last year for this flat glass, which is actually what inspired me to convert this one to a 70 look. When you look at the angle of this spoiler here, and we incorporate the location of where that wraparound glass went, but it was pretty close to right there. So when you look now, lower profile, at this angle, matching this angle, that's when you see the aesthetic appeal of the larger back glass and this spoiler. It works from a silhouette perspective. From a side-on profile, this works really well with this. So, to put a fine point on it, we've got this angle that matches this angle that matches this angle, and it works in silhouette. Does that make sense? Okay, and that's great, and that works, and there's a lot of great looking cars that have that configuration. But for me, there's a little bit more sophisticated and subtle design aesthetic that I like better. And this is the low spoiler. This was standard on the Alley Sport cars, and again, it's a great looking spoiler. It's a one-piece as opposed to a three-piece. It's not as aggressive. I don't think there's as much aerodynamic advantage, but the look is iconic as well. So from the way you're seeing it now, here's one of the biggest advantages that I see. This line here in the quarter panel is really great. The way the spoiler goes here, I'm just going to pin it here, and I'm going to show you what my mind's eye kind of sees. I see this continuous line that complements the back window, and it moves down here, and it complements the pitch of the short tail, and it flows in to this. And in Da Vinci's rule of thirds, if you want to get artistically technical, it pinches down here and it gives us a third up to here that satisfies our brain. And then we've got another third here, and then the rest of the third is in the front. It's long front, short deck, but still in proportion. And that's one of the reasons that I like this spoiler better. It flows with the back glass. Check out this other angle. This style line at the end of the spoiler, and I'm hoping the tape doesn't give out, this is an interesting cue right here. We've got the corner right there. So when we have our spoiler placed properly, we've got another super nice continuous line down here. It's a design flow. And when you look at it from where I'm looking at it right here, check it out, camera guy, you see the benefit of that line right there that intersects with here. Also, if I can get camera guy a little bit more, looking straight down right here. When we see, okay, so here's the shoulder of the quarter panel, right? And when this is close to the car, that is going to match that shoulder of the quarter panel. And when I run my hand over it, it flows. It flows from here and it flows there. And proportionally, I don't know what it is, it balances with this rear deck panel. And one more perspective I want to show you that makes design sense, and it actually gives my brain some relief. When you look at this straight on, we see it's about two of my small fingers here, all the way across here. I'm going to fill this line in, but the original cars obviously had a seam here because that's where the quarter panel overlaps the rear tail panel. So that brings us a design cue in here that's continuous, and it's proportional and balanced. And it gives us another style line all the way across here that's going to match all the way down there. It's the combination of all of those things. I call it an uninterrupted visual experience to where everything works. And in my opinion, with this flat glass, this spoiler looks really great, and it's the better choice. And since it's my car, I'm going to put this spoiler on. Here's the problem. All right, let's look at this. The way this thing mounts, we have studs. right? It doesn't mount here. It just mounts onto the deck lid. So my task is to figure out exactly, precisely, where this spoiler goes before I drill a bunch of stinking holes in my brand new deck lid or the old vintage deck lid that I can't replace. So that's the task that we have set before us. So how do we do that? Oh, let's go to the internet. Let's get a template. No. Let's go to the manufacturer of the spoiler. We got this from AMD. Let's download the template in the PDF file. Nope. Oh, let's go to the guy down the street that's got a vintage car and have him disassemble his spoiler so I can map out a template and bring for... Not going to happen. You guys have been great. There's probably somebody gracious out there that maybe has one of these cars broke down that can trace out a template from the... It's too late for that. I'm going to mount this today, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to do it, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to do it in the right proportion, in the right placement, and yeah, it does not involve duct tape. The other thing I want to try and get accomplished today involves this piece of jewelry right here. This, of course, is a fuel tank, and it comes from Precision Stainless Fab, and it's custom fit for this car. It's a stainless steel fuel tank, but it contains a later model fuel hat with a modern pump, connections. We're using electronic fuel injection in this car with a modern, well, if you can call a 30-year-old engine platform modern, we're using EFI. So this is a baffle tank with an internal pump, which is going to keep the charge cool and hook up to the computer system for the PHYTEC system. This is the solution to a problem. And it's a great-looking fuel tank. So it comes with an issue as well. We have a giant fuel hat here. If I've ever got to change a fuel pump for some reason, I've got one option. I can drop the fuel tank, and that kind of can be a major pain in the butt, unless we have an access door. And this one comes from Detroit Speed and Engineering, and it goes, well, right there in the trunk floor and gives us access to maintenance, repairs, upgrades, everything. So I got to put the door in. I did a homemade one in Z-Sled, and I didn't know about this piece. Probably wasn't in existence. This is what I love about the aftermarket. So what we're going to do is mock this fuel tank up, get it into place, figure out where to cut the big dang hole in the trunk floor, which I hate to do because it's brand new, but that'll give us something to be able to locate this because, again, just like the spoiler, there's no template. And then we can finish out the trunk, because I want to show you the trunk. When we look at our trunk, it reminds me that I've neglected it. So we look inside here, and you can see welded seams, we can see overlap seams, a bunch of rosette welds all the way around the perimeter. None of it's been seam sealed. And I need to clean it up and dress it up and seal the seams. I want to put some insulation on the back sides of the quarter panels. It's not finished. It's been sadly neglected. It's ready to be finished. It wants to be finished, but it's not finished. And I've also got to cut a big dang hole in the floor for the access for the fuel tank. I don't want to guess at that, so what we're going to do is cut the hole first, and then I can address all that other stuff. So I'm going to get the car up in the air on some safe jack stands and take a look at what we got. First, I want to put the spoiler on, because squirrel, I want to put the spoiler on, then we'll get it up in the air. It's a pretty simple process. I'm going to make a template of the spoiler, lay it up on top of the sheet metal, and figure out where I want it, and then mark the holes. So I've got this lightweight cardboard. I'm going to call it template paper, even though it's still cardboard. And poster board would work extremely well as well. It's not long enough because I want it to match all of the contours and be a complete template. So what I've got to do is add on, which is fine. I can add on down over here. Need some tape. Forgot my tape. Found my tape. So we're just going to add a piece on, right? Now, it's long enough. I'm going to trim this down later on, but I'm just going to do a basic trace of it. All right, so now I'm just going to use probably just a single edge blade and trace that. Got to find a blade. All right. Note to self, if you've got to do a sawing motion with the razor blade on thin cardboard, it's probably burnt out. Let me get a new blade. I've always said you can cut yourself much faster with a dull blade than you ever could with a sharp one. There we go. That's a little better, isn't it? Cut it a little oversized. All right, now we will put this on the spoiler. Now we can fine-tune the fit. I might have overcut a little bit. This side matches pretty good though. Okay. That's the bottom. Now we're going to confirm the fit. All right, so it matches, meets the edges pretty good. And more importantly, the holes are all in the right place. So now we're going to take and transfer this onto the deck lid, but I don't want to be confused. So what we're going to do is write there. So now what I need to do is just line it up, you know, and with it like this, I can tell a couple of different things. I can tell where my screw holes are going to be because it might look nice there, but look here. Screw holes are going to be right in that gap, so it's got to come on the inside. We don't have much room for messing up. Just about said a bad word. So I'm going to get some tape, and I'm going to sneak up on this because gravity is not helping me with this right here, right now. What I'm looking at is where the shoulder rolls over. How much have I got there? And I've got about 3/8 of an inch. This side it's more. But we can't go over too far because of our openings. So this is where I'm going to use my blue tape again. I'm going to take advantage of where the light reflects off on either side, right there. That's where it stops. And this side right here, that's where, I don't know if you can see what I'm seeing. It's where the light reflects off of there, and it goes dark on the shadow. So that's called a spectral highlight. So that's going to give me an idea where the thing falls off into the quarter panels. So the other thing that I want to make sure of is that I've got my proportions correct here. and this meets that. We are going to engineer some adjustability into this as well. I'm going to cut the holes slightly oversized, so I've got some wiggle and adjustment room. I've been to a dozen car shows this year, making the decision as to what spoiler I wanted to have on this car. And looking and even measuring people's cars to see where the placement looked best. And I scoured a whole bunch of things, and I've seen spoilers lined up with the edge of the trunk lid, and it looks okay, but it doesn't look as good as this, in my opinion. So I'm going to actually, shock and horror, I'm going to get a measuring tape. Or a measuring stick. Okay, so I'm an inch right there. We're going to go over to this side. Okay, so I'm an inch and an eighth right there. So I'm drawing the edge of the trunk lid on either side. Yeah, there it is. All right, so that's where it's going to go. Now we mark the holes, we drill the holes, and we bolt the dang thing in, right? Let's do it. All right, so as always, what I'm going to do, start out with an 1/8 inch pilot bit, and then I'll step up to a larger one. I've got to get my universal key. Hang on. I'm going to put something under the ends of this so I don't drill down into my sheet metal work. All right, that should be good. Okay, drilling things. So the next question is, what size hole do I drill? Well, we're going to drill the same size hole that the factory drilled, right? Which is this one here. It looks like a big hole, but that's the factory size for the hole. And this, in theory, looks like it'd be a perfect place to draw my template from. But it's not the best because it's for the tall 3-piece spoiler. And when we have it down here, the location doesn't work. It's too far down. We're going to use this as a guide for the holes, but not as a guide for the placement of the spoiler. Now, what that size ended up being was I think a 27/32. Yeah, 27/32. Okay, do that math in your head. Anyway, what we're going to do is eventually come up to this size, but first starting with a pilot hole. So I'm going to get some dang safety glasses. In case you haven't noticed, I haven't had a really great track record with safety in the shop here lately. You see what I'm saying? Okay. All right, so I don't want to drill all the way through into the bottom sheet metal. So what we're going to do, a guy named Frank Miles showed me this trick. It's a drill stop where you can set your depth. Ish. Now it's a soft stopping point to where I don't drill all the way through the metal. Now we'll go with the 75 325th bit. And we're using these. I love these bits. These are Concut. It's a stepped end drill, and technically I don't really need a pilot, but this just allows me to really stay on that center point, and it keeps the tip of the drill cool while you're drilling. I like it. right, that's commitment. There's no turning back now. Alrighty then, let's give it a test, shall we? I don't know why this matters, but it does. All right, moment of truth. Oh no, oh, it's terrible. Well, that was drama-free. The holes match. Let's see. All right, I got to get my tape measure. So we're going to just say that we've got 1 1/8 inches from the top of the spoiler, because there's a little bit of stand-up. This side fully seated. Ooh, I've got 1 1/4 inches. Okay, so we're going to have to slot a couple of holes. Move this thing down. So this is what they're supposed to look like. That's one off the factory spoiler, and I don't have them. I don't know why I don't have them. I just don't have them. I'm just going to kind of snug. Before I fully tighten it, I'm going to adjust this side. Part of what's happening here is also the deck lid is not matching the contour of the spoiler perfectly, but I don't want to pull those studs out of the fiberglass. All right, let's take a look. Let's take a look. Not gonna do that. Not gonna do it. Oh, I think I got it. We've got a flowing line up here. We've got a flowing line here. I think that's symmetrical. This has given us an optical delusion right here, because that's bare metal and that's not. Instant paint. Now we've got some symmetry. That's a balanced look right there, folks. Okay, so I can work with this. This is fiberglass. It's probably the easiest medium to body work on the planet. And if I really want to get tweaky and custom, what a guy could do, a guy could remember where he put his speed square. There it is. So when we have an angle like that, we've got gappage right there. So what a guy could do would be just to gently fill that and make it match that angle so that it doesn't swell in while still retaining the spirit of the factory spoiler. And this one, well, it's pretty, there's not much gappage. So, there you go. Straightforward? Sure it is. Is it without stress? No, it's not, because we're drilling holes in brand new sheet metal. Come on. Anyway, that's got that, it's got that covered. I'm so happy with that. Now, guys out in Camaro land know that this deck lid is inherently heavy. So I have also taken the torsion springs out from under this cover. They don't exist there anymore. And I thought about buying new ones, but I want to do with this car what I did with the Z sled, and I want to weld this solid because I like the way it looks better without this seam. Even though it's fun to have an intersection of seams and make them all straight and stuff, but I like that solid welded, so I'm going to weld that solid. And what we're going to do is, there's a coupler. Well, dang it, my continuity got in my way. So what I'm going to do is put on, there's actually, it's just a real simple thing. A guy called, I think it's F-Body Graveyard, and he's right here in Middle Tennessee. He's got a little prop device. I think it even has a gas shock that bolts to here and props this up. And when you pop the key, it's either just a manual support or there's a gas shock. Either way, there's a gas shock configuration that can hold this lid up, and I can do a lot better and never have to worry about those torsion springs getting broken or replaced. And I can still have my cake and eat it too by welding this seam in. And to make them happy, what I'm going to do is take the lid off, put it off in the corner, and then we can work easier. I just want to have one more look at this. I like it. Now the fuel tank sits up in here, and it gets centered on the trunk floor and up against these braces here. This little curved area right here, that's where the curvature, the top of the tank is. So it seats itself, it locates itself. And with this tank, they give us these stainless steel straps, comes with it. I'm not going to permanently mount this, so I'm not going to pre-bend these straps. I'm not going to use these. I'm just going to use a floor jack and bring it up, put it into place, and then get a perspective on, frankly, where we need to drill the big first hole. So, floor jack time, commence. I'm going to do my very best to not mess up this beautiful fuel tank. We've got it reasonably centered. That might be where it goes. All right, I need to get a flashlight because I can't see anything. All right, so the tank is centered front to rear and left to right, and sure enough, like it's made for a second-gen F-body, this curve follows the bracing, so we're where we need to be with the tank. Now, this horizontal, I'm sorry, no, it's a vertical, I guess. Anyway, this piece of sheet metal right here meets right there at the top of the tank, and that's where it meets. So as far as where I'm going to put my access door, that kind of tells me exactly where to put it. So let's look at it from the top. Now in the trunk, obviously this is where the tank ends. That's where that intersection is. So I think as long as I'm centered, because the pump module is centered, and on the flat part of the floor, that's about the best I can do. So what I'm going to do is mark my placement for this bad boy. We'll start drilling holes and cutting. Maybe I should have cleaned before I did this. I gotta make a clean spot. Hang on. Did my pump sprayer just take a dump? My cool pump sprayer just absolutely just cagged on me. All right, you've been a good soldier. Old school. Wait a minute. All right. You know who the last person was to use that pump sprayer? Ron Ryan. Ron? Dude, messing up my tools? That's not even right, man. Blame Ron. All right. First, we're going to get this fuel tank out of the way. Hopefully without scratches or dents. If I've ciphered on this right, it should locate pretty good. Magnet, fail.
No! No! God, please, no!
Okay, maybe I had too many magnets. But you see what's happening here. This is now going to be flush. I'll tack it in the corners. I will have to get out the hot metal glue gun for this because something went horribly wrong with that gap. Oh, that's better. Okay, it just wasn't quite centered. So now, we just weld it in, right? Slowly, because I don't want to warp the surface and I don't want to burn off any more of the bed liner undercoating underneath the trunk any more than possible, any more than I have to. But that's the thing. There's the hole. Bam. Okie doke. And don't forget about the Black Friday sale. I got to remind you again, the code is BLACK50, 50% off all of Paintucation streaming products. Check us out. If you want to up your skills, links in the description. I'm using my Eastwood multi-process welder, and sometimes this thing works so good that I forget to set it. And I had the setting down for 20 gauge sheet metal, and of course we've got 1/4-inch plate that's cut into the flange of this particular trapdoor, butted up against 20 gauge sheet metal. So I had to play with the settings just a little bit, so I cranked it up, and you know, it's one of the most difficult things for me is to weld dissimilar metal thicknesses at the same time. But what I ended up doing is dragging off of the thicker metal and into the 20 gauge. And that technique has served me a lot. There's a formal name for it. I don't know what it is, but it works. All right, so we got it fully welded. The reason I fully welded around it was because this is a unibody car and I didn't want any gaps. I just wanted to make sure it was fully welded flush. Now I am going to grind the perimeter because this cover sits on top and it goes all the way to the outside edges and it doesn't sit flush. So we're going to grind some of those welds down, which is going to make them look ironically better. And then we'll test fit the tank again, see what we can see. I'm using my electric flap wheel to grind the welds down. I like a flap wheel because it keeps the metal cooler at the same time as it's very aggressive. It's a 40 grit wheel and just makes light work of doing this type of stuff. It's a little bit awkward bending over the rear body panel on that last floating rib, if you know what I'm talking about, but hey, we got it done. We followed that up with an 80 grit dual action sander just to kind of smooth things out and make me feel better about being a crappy welder, but I'm a pretty good grinder. So this under here doesn't look too bad. I expected some burn around the welds, but hey, we'll throw a coating on there, get some seam sealer, maybe do like a 1/2 inch bead of sealer. That's bare steel, so we got to coat it. And then just do a nice bead around there. It'll be fine. All right. It is flush. So now, obviously I've got some cleanup to do on the bottom side, but I want to put that tank back up in there and see what kind of access that we've got for future reference, because we can't really move the hole anymore. Well, that couldn't be any better. Tank's where it's supposed to be. This is exactly centered up. I don't think that's an accident. Detroit Speed makes a great product. So does Zach at Precision Stainless Fab. So this guy will go right here. And the screw pack, of course, we've got some nice button head screws that'll anchor that down. Won't interfere with anything that I'm putting in the trunk. Nice flat floor. This top side here, well, it doesn't need much. I don't even think it needs any seam sealer from the top side, but I might just do it out of prudence. So for the rest of the trunk, obviously, I'm going to tape out these seams here that are already welded. First, I'm going to clean because, man. And then I'll back tape all the seams, seal them, wipe it flat, all that kind of stuff. You've seen me do all that. And then what I'll do is put an epoxy ground coat down on the inside of this trunk lid, probably on the insides of the quarters as well. You've seen me do that. And then after that, I'll spray in that Raptor bed liner on the inside of this trunk. And you've seen me do that. That way, that finishes up the back end of the car. So now there's no longer a deficit, and we're ready to start doing things like laying in a wiring harness permanently and clamping it in place, and maybe a transition panel, some more insulation, things like that. So this gets us an even more complete picture. I'm going to take the stainless steel tank and put it off in a safe, dry place. And then when we do the fuel system, the EFI, tank, lines, all that type of stuff, we'll bring that bad boy out again. And in the meantime, yeah, I feel pretty good about this. Trunk spoiler, placed. This stuff, buttoned down. There's increasingly less and less questions about this car and more solutions. So that wraps this up today. Thank you for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And thank you for participating in these videos, because without you guys commenting, it's just me just sort of making movies by myself. So I appreciate you very much. And the comments, good, bad, indifferent, lay them on me. Let me know what you guys want to see on the channel too. We've got some cool stuff coming up. Thanks for watching. See you next weekend.